What is up, everybody? Escape 211 here, back with some more of the tips and tricks, and we are in part 2 of the progression path. Now, I want to just kind of start this off by saying I'm going to cover half, and I am really just going to try to rifle through quickly to tell you what I think you should get, what you shouldn't get, maybe upgrade a little, maybe even not upgrade that much, and give you an idea of what your bay is going to look like at that point. Keep in mind, all of this is my recommendation, and just based on what I've experienced. Of course, there are going to be certain weapons or certain mechs you may disagree on, and that's totally okay. You can unlock those as well. But I'm trying to give you the core tools, the core mechs that you're going to want to invest in, and then after that, possibly decide on some other ones that you want to invest in as well. Like if you like a brawler and you want to get a Juggernaut to 6-star and use 6-star Plasma Cannon 6, that is not a bad idea. I'm sure that would be effective in combat, but I'm just trying to give you stuff that I think is the most important and the best in terms of tier list to kind of go through and do all that. So I'm going to rifle through this quickly. Like I said, if there are certain details of other things that you want to know, you can comment below. But let's get started, all right? When you first start the game, you have probably done the tutorial, and you have Paragon with an autocannon 4, and then you quickly get the Lancer and the RPG 2. And I kind of already showed you what my bay looks like at that point, or what yours would look like with 2 mechs out. Both of these mechs and both of these weapons are okay for early game, but I would not invest in any of them. Paragon maybe a little, maybe starring up once, but beyond that, you can move right along. All right, next up, we are going to see the Autocannon 2. Not a great weapon, not one you need to get, but it's already going to show up in challenges since the game already gave you the Autocannon 4. I wish it didn't, but it's already going to show up there. So if you want to get it, you can, but again, it's not a weapon you really need to invest in, and hopefully you can swap it out for something better in challenges when it comes up. Next up, RPG 2, or the RPG 4. This is actually a pretty good early game weapon and one that you can upgrade a little bit, maybe star up one time. But as your mechs get a little bit better and you're going to get the RPG 6, that's probably really the only one that's long-term you're going to want to invest in. So I wouldn't go beyond 1 star, maybe 3 stars. Or I'm sorry, 2 to maybe 3 stars, but not much more than that. Next up, we have Juggernaut, and he is going to kind of be forced on you to unlock. But Juggernaut is actually really good. If you want a brawler and one that you can take to the end, guys, his health it's unmatched. It's the highest in the game. When you consider his health plus his shield put together, it's higher than Brickhouse, higher than Ares in a similar bracket. So if you want a brawler, he's not a bad option. Plus, you get a lot of the A coins you use to unlock him. So you're going to want to get him. At this point, the game may, I think, ask you to get a 3rd bay space, a 3rd one. That's not a bad idea to do. You definitely want to put Juggernaut in there and get some weapons on him. But soon, you're going to want to switch out Lancer. He's not going to be that effective. Honestly, you're probably just going to be using Paragon and then Juggernaut in a match and be done with it. So, be ready to switch out Lancer soon. Next up, we have the Thermal Lance 2. I'm not a fan of the Thermal Lances at all. I would say don't unlock any and don't invest in any of them. You don't want them in your challenges. The Plasma Cannon 4 is up next. I already have an Is It Good video related, an in-depth review to the Plasma Cannon, but like I say in the video, they're not very good. I wouldn't unlock them, especially because these are A coins and you're going to want to save them for a mech that comes up very quickly or very soon after this in the prize path. Thermal Lance 4 is next. We can pass over this one, like I said. Then we have the Long Arm 8. This is probably the first uncommon weapon or item that you should unlock. The Long Arm 8 is great for long-term game, and it is the traditional quintessential sniper style weapon. It is also a weapon that takes a little bit to master. It has a bit of a learning curve, but it's one that's worth it because at the end of your progress path is the railgun, which functions very similar to this. So it is worth getting, worth investing into, and I would say you'd probably want to put it on your Paragon or maybe your Juggernaut. At this point, Paragon or Juggernaut are there. Paragon's it's probably still at 8. Juggernaut, you may want to get up to 8 and star it up once. But, that's kind of preference thing, but that's, usually where those two are. Next up, this is a big upgrade here at this point. The RPG 6 and the Panther, both together. Both of these you want to unlock right away or as soon as you can, especially Panther. He has A coins, and that's what it costs to unlock him, but it is well worth it. He is probably the best mech in the game and will take you all the way to the end of the game. So it's worth getting, worth investing. The RPG-6 is a great weapon too. It is the best RPG weapon in the RPG set, and probably the only one worth investing into. At least a couple stars. I got mine up to 3 stars. You could probably go a little bit more than that if you wanted to later on. But that's about as far as I went in the early game. And it's great for that. Probably even good in some of the mid and maybe even late game on a light mech. Next, Thermalan 6. We can pass over this one. Then we get to the Javelin Rack 4. The Javelins are a fantastic weapon. I love them. But the Javelin 4, when it comes in right now, costs a lot of A coins. And unless you spend some money on this game, you probably won't be able to unlock them. This may not be the most important thing to unlock right now, but it's something that I think is a good weapon to unlock later on. It becomes very useful. The Javelin 6 is better than this, so you may want to save your A coins for that one. So put a pin in this one and consider it later. Killshot is the next one that is up, and it is a fantastic mech, the best scout mech or early game mech in the game. It has speed boosts that no one can match, and it has a good energy value and good energy set that make it better than all the 12 energy ones. And because it's faster, it's the best font capper, type of mech in the game. So you definitely want him. Right now, your bay will probably look like, if you get Killshot, it would look like Killshot, Panther, and then probably Juggernaut. Those would be the 3 that I would say in your spot right now. As far as unlocking more spots, I would say you don't need to, period. You can unlock more spots in your bay, but if you're only using 2 to 3 mechs per match, you probably won't use the other ones. Myself, I really only use 2 to 3 still. So you probably don't even need to unlock any more spaces, but that's, neither here nor there. That's roughly about where I would say you should be with your bay. All right, keep moving on. Keep moving on. The Shotgun 2, awful weapon. Don't unlock it. Don't waste your time. We'll move right along. Probably the worst weapon in the game. Long Arm 10 is a great weapon, but it's one that, again, you may want to put a pin in. Super good and useful for later on in the game. You probably only have one mech, Panther, that could actually use the Long Arm 10 right now, but it's going to leave 2 energy kind of vacant unless you have something else you can put in there, but it would just be filler. So it's probably not good to get right now, but this is a solid weapon to consider later on, for sure. So put a pin in that. Shotgun 4 is up next. Again, a weapon I would totally pass over. Don't worry about it. Then we get into the Pulse Cannon family. I go back and forth on this one. I don't really think it's a great weapon, but it's also not the worst. And I'll probably talk about that one in the future. But this is the 4. This is the lowest in the family and not worth unlocking. I would pass over this for sure. The Plasma Cannon 2 is another one I would pass over. Not good. MD. This is a decent mech, but one that you don't really need right now. This is one that would be fun to play with or do some later game stuff, or maybe for future game methods if they come out in the future where it's more about teamwork. But as of right now, he's a guy you can put a pin in and you don't really need to unlock yet. And then lastly, for this video, for part 2, the Rocket Mortar 8. This is a great weapon, but it's not one that I use often. And there's a lot of controversy over this weapon because some people find it too strong and unfair, because basically you can sit in the back of the map and shoot with this thing and hit enemies. So it feels a little ridiculous in its performance, and especially for how much damage that it does. It's a great weapon in that regard. It's not one that I use often, but I can see it being very effective. However, because there's a lot of controversy, I would not be surprised if this weapon gets nerfed. So this is one that you may want to consider unlocking, and because I believe they all take A coins to unlock, it might be a pretty hefty investment for something that could get nerfed. So I guess use your discretion on this one. But that right there covers the basis of the first half of the prize path, and I hope that that became very helpful for you guys. If you have certain questions, or if there's stuff you don't agree with, or you think I missed certain points about this, covering this kind of stuff, feel free to comment below. If you want to ask me why certain things are good or bad, feel free to comment below. Like I said, I'll probably do future videos where I go in depth on each of these things, but this was just to give you an overall roadmap. So this is more of like the early to mid game, and part 3 will cover the rest of the items you can unlock in the prize path. So with all that said, I hope you guys found that helpful, enjoyable. If you have questions or comments, leave them below, and we will see you out there on the battlefield.